Wait, that's the Nile. And it's cutting straight through the middle of the dead Sahara Desert. They are carving a brand new river by hand, racing the desert before it swallows them whole. That concrete fortress has no roads. It exists for one purpose only, to pump an entire lake into a wasteland. One job. When a granite mountain got in their way, they simply blew it off the map. It's 3 a.m. They only pour concrete in the dark. The heat here doesn't allow anything else. Last year, this was dead sand. Today, green wheat in the middle of the Sahara. This is Egypt's second Nile, and it might be the most impossible mega-project on the planet. 104 million Egyptians are squeezed into a green strip that covers just 4% of their country. And that strip is shrinking. Cairo is so packed that farmland disappears under concrete every single hour. This is some of the most fertile soil on Earth. And right behind it, it disappears. But nearby sits Lake Nasser, one of the largest man-made lakes on Earth, holding 168 billion cubic meters of water. Most of that water simply flows out to sea, unused. So Egypt made a decision: steal it back and carry it 310 kilometers into the Sahara. They called it Egypt's New Nile, and it starts the only way it can, with wooden stakes and a line drawn by hand across 310 kilometers of nothing. The stakes are in. Now the machines are coming. The first challenge? They need to build the world's largest pumping station, and its foundation sits in the middle of a lake. They drive the piles, then pump out the lake itself. Dry ground now sits 50 meters deep inside Lake Nasser. Then they blast the deepest inland water intake channel ever built, straight through solid limestone. Workers drill foundation shafts 15 meters into sandstone. In 50-degree heat, at the bottom of a lake. Floor by floor, a 50-meter concrete fortress rises from the lake bed, built to hold back 168 billion cubic meters of water. 24 pump shafts are bored straight through the floor, each one 3 meters wide, 30 meters deep. Look down one of those shafts, 30 meters, and there are 24 of them. 18 running every single day, without a break. The pumps themselves arrive by barge from Japan. 35 tons each, 4 meters tall. Workers guide each one down by hand, 1 meter per minute. 35 tons, moving slower than a heartbeat. 288 megawatts of power arrive from the Aswan Dam, 250 kilometers away. Enough electricity to run an entire to keep these pumps alive. 24 machines, waiting underground, surrounded on every side by a lake, for the spark that brings them to life. The cofferdam comes down. The lake floods back in. The pumping station is now, officially, an island. March 2005. The first pump switches on. Water climbs 50 meters, straight up through solid rock. It actually works.
When the first water hit the canal, I cried. I genuinely cried.
54 meters wide, and endless in both directions. Right now, 2,000 machines are cutting this path through the Sahara. That dump truck is the size of a house. From up here, it looks like a toy. It's the largest excavation fleet ever assembled for a single project. And it never stops. The sand walls slump overnight. Every morning, the night shift's work has caved back in. And they start again. Then a granite mountain blocks the entire canal path. 9 kilometers of solid rock, with no way around it.
Dispatch, we've hit a wall out here.
45,000 kilograms of explosives are loaded into the ridge, the biggest blast in Egyptian history.
All personnel, clear the blast zone.
The blast throws rock 40 meters into the air. The shockwave is felt 20 kilometers away. For a moment, the sun disappears. Drill, blast, load, haul, repeat. 1 million cubic meters of granite, cleared in 9 months. Then a haboob hits, with zero warning. A wall of sand 300 meters tall, moving at 80 kilometers an hour. 2 meters of new sand, overnight. They rerun the survey by GPS, re-establish the canal line, and dig again. 10,000 workers live 400 kilometers from the nearest city. A supply convoy crosses the open Sahara every single day just to keep them fed. From above, the excavated spoil looks like a second mountain range slicing through the Sahara. It isn't. It's just what they dug out of the ground. Then ancient groundwater starts flooding into the cut faster than the pumps can remove it. The desert is fighting back. That underground water is toxic with salt. If it mixes with the fresh Nile water, everything downstream dies. So they build a clay cutoff wall, 25 meters deep, sealed with bentonite cement. 80 million cubic meters of removed earth becomes the access roads. Out here, the desert quite literally builds itself. Concrete batching plants are spaced every 15 kilometers. The canal is simply too long for a single plant to supply. A slip-form machine pours continuous concrete at 2 meters per minute, non-stop, down all 310 kilometers of canal. Touch this. In 50-degree heat, fresh concrete can crack within hours if it isn't protected. The sun is merciless. It boils the moisture out and rips cracks through fresh concrete. 1 meter cracked, and they have to tear it out. There is zero margin for error. Eventually, it splits into 4 arteries. Another 88 kilometers of concrete forced into dead sand. 310 kilometers of perfect, empty concrete. The pumps are ready, but the water hasn't moved yet. 800-meter circles of leveled desert, prepared and waiting for crops. The water hasn't arrived, but they're already ready. 320 kilometers of buried pipeline, wide enough to stand inside, gets wired into the desert like a new circulatory system. The trench machine cuts, the pipe sections are welded, and the side boom lowers each string into the ground. One center pivot arm, 400 meters long, 40 nozzles, watering 50 hectares in a perfect circle, rotating automatically around the clock. It moves too slowly to watch, but it never, ever stops. 3 booster stations every 60 kilometers, each one lifting the water pressure to push it further into the sand. A power grid built straight through the dunes. The pivot wheels sink 400 millimeters into wet clay. The 400-meter steel arm tilts, and the whole machine locks solid. They double the tire width, doubling the contact area. The weight spreads out. The arm rotates again. Problem solved. 400 kilometers of desert roads are built before the water even arrives. Out here, infrastructure always comes first. Drive in any direction from here, and there's nothing for 400 kilometers. The sand here is dead, so they force thousands of tons of rich, dark soil life into it. Heavy dozers rip the hardpan down to 600 millimeters, hectare by hectare.
Before the main canal is even finished, trial plots run on temporary pumps, learning what will actually grow here.
And then, the proof. Golden wheat, harvested directly out of the Sahara. The impossible gamble actually worked.
When the water comes here, I do not want to be standing in this canal. It comes very, very fast.
Lake water rises through the intake channel. For the first time ever, these limestone walls get wet. A wall of churning white water forces its way out, powerful enough to create its own weather. 1.5 meters per second. Dark water, racing through a canal that has never once been wet.
All 18 active pumps fire at once. This isn't a river anymore. It's a deafening waterfall, forcing its way west.
The workers watch it arrive. Some of them have been out here for 3 years, waiting for this exact moment. Blue water in the Sahara, visible from the air for the first time in recorded history. Right now, water reaches the very first pivot. The arm begins turning. The first sprinkler opens. Water hits the sand and darkens it right in front of the camera. The desert has just changed. 18 pivots are turning. The desert is wet, but nothing is growing yet. The real test is still coming. Grain drills plant wheat into sand that was pure desert just 6 months earlier. Miss this planting window, and the Sahara burns every seed alive. 10 days after planting. Green shoots in the Sahara. Look at this root. 6 months ago, this was dead sand. Then white salt crystals start appearing between the rows. Irrigation water is evaporating before it can sink in, pulling ancient toxic salt straight to the surface. The fix is brutal but effective. Rip the earth open and bury the water underground, starving the salt of moisture. Waist-high wheat, pivot arms turning overhead, green inside the circle, dead Sahara, just 400 meters outside it. Egyptian long staple cotton, the most valuable cotton in the world, now growing in a desert. 50,000 date palms now line the canal, cutting field evaporation by 15%. The Sahara is growing a forest. Within months, birds, bees, and foxes follow the water west. Life, arriving uninvited. 50 kilometers are done. 60 kilometers still remain, and the hardest terrain is still ahead. But 5 years on, satellite images already confirm it. The desert is changing. This was the conceptual future. But back down here, in the present, they are still digging. If you want to see what they build next, subscribe to Lumenarra.